So today, the nations of Britain, France, and the United States of America have marshaled their righteous power against barbarism and brutality. We have many options for Venezuela, including a possible military option if necessary.
Hello, this is From Caracas. I'm Ray Gomez. Venezuela and other nations condemned the recent U.S.-led attacks against the Syrian facilities for the alleged use of chemical weapons by Assad's army. Why? On this, I will talk with Isabel Frangie. Please join us for the next few minutes. Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you for being with us. First of all, is it true that Syria has used chemical weapons against the civil population of that country? Because this is the alleged reason why the US, the UK, and France decided to attack the Arab country weeks ago. What do you think of it?
You know, we have to approach this issue with a specific termination.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mostly I'm very pleased that you are aboard and you approach this issue with if it is a war attack or not, or weapon attack. Because mostly before, when we are reading the notice about Syria,
mm-hmm.
you see the Western media
Yes.
really spoke about or speak about what's happening in Syria as a conflict. You know,
right.
to mitigate a little bit
A civil conflict.
Civil conflict and a conflict
mm-hmm.
in this word and this term. You know, to mitigate a little bit what's happening, the reality in Syria.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to put in the context those two words,
mm-hmm.
if it is a war or a conflict.
Right.
If it is a conflict, so we have to approach this issue in other way or in other standards, meaning that there is a solution for this problem and an institution, international institution, and they can get for a good result peacefully. But it's not the case.
What's the case, indeed?
The case is that there is a war, there is aggression. And when we are speaking about war, because there is terrorism there and the government is trying to, as we say in the slang language, kick them out.
You're right.
And there is forces, Western forces, power, that they are attacking Syria because there has strategies in the zone, in the area.
Where is terrorism in Syria coming from?
Coming from outside of Syria. There is more than 70 nationality so-called rebel.
You're right.
But they are terrorists that came outside of Syria. And with the aid of foreign policy and foreign powers, Western powers in the area. Even they are telling us that they are fighting for terrorists. But in act, we see that there is another reality, there is another outcoming issue on the territory, because we see that when Russia intervened on the territory with the proxy of Iran and of Syria, we saw another result. We saw that the Syrian army is getting more victory on the territory. Military are very, with positive result. United States tried to say that she's aiming to fight the terrorists, and for the only reason that she wants to establish empower its position in the Middle East, especially in Syria.
What has been Venezuela's position on the Syria war?
Venezuela, you know, Venezuela stand always before or beside all the human rights principles. Venezuela, since Chavez was in 2010 or 11, if you remember that President Chavez make an announce that Syria, what's happening in Libya, what's happening in Syria, is a complot, international complot, the same complot that it's facing right now Venezuela. The blockage and whatever is happening, our crisis in Venezuela. So since 2010-11, the Syria is living this crisis, and Venezuela stand up with those principles, which is the respect of the sovereignty, of the democracy, of the right, the decision to get the auto decision in its policy. And we cannot stand with the imperialism. We cannot stand with the policy, foreign policy of United States that we have a lot in the history, a lot of experience and issue really that make us doubt about the American policy. Especially when it's related to the strategy, when it's related to the petroleum, when it's related to the natural resources. And Syria, as you say, as you know, that it is very important strategically in the zone, in the area, even for Syria, even for Russia, even for Iran, even for the gas oleoduct on its coast. Those are topics that we have to stand and we have to highlight over. That's why Venezuela cannot allow such policy, cannot allow this really atrocity. What's happening there? Even Venezuela stand beside. We show right now the President Maduro, who is standing in the United Nations and with his declaration day by day that he is with the democracy, with the peace process, with the peace in the world. We have to speak about the process, the peace in the world, because we cannot support, we cannot hide what's happening in the world right now.
President Donald Trump has also signed the executive order that says that Venezuela is, quote, a potential and extraordinary danger to the security of the United States. Is Venezuela as dangerous as the American authorities say?
Yes, of course, it's a dangerous in the good way, let us say, because when the White House, even Obama or Trump or whatever who will come, he served for the capitalism, he served for the Zionism, international Zionism, that are based on despoil the resources, natural resources of the countries. Mean that Venezuela is geopolitically is very important for the United States. Okay, it was the backyard in certain years under
South America used to be the backyard
the democracy,
of the United States.
under the democracy, as so-called democracy of the other actors, political opposition in the history. So right now, as Venezuela has its own decision, geopolitically it's very important with all the natural resources. It's really with a pluripolar, we say, allies in the world, which is Russia, China, and Iran
Turkey,
and Turkey,
Syria.
Yes, of course, and it's opening to another market, emerging market in the world that makes really a danger for the security, national security of United States. So that's why who doesn't understand that our choice and our policy in Venezuela, it makes danger for United States. It's really it doesn't have a very wise panorama about what's happening in Latin America. Latin America, choose the last decade an identity, an own identity, returns to its soil. You know, speaking about its own, their own interests. So it's a right for every people. Venezuela was looking toward the benefit of its region and the benefit of its people. So when I took choices, international choices, in different markets. Right now, we are seeing that our allies, as China, as I say, and Russia, are making an investment in Venezuela, with a high investment in Venezuela. Respecting our sovereignty, respecting our choice, internal choice to decide the way that we have to be governed in Venezuela, it's a big issue. You know, United States, when they choose, when they are allies to anybody, every time they are despot. They came over the people. They want to impose their rules. And this is why are not with a good relation with Venezuela, because Venezuela, with its president Nicolas Maduro right now, choose with the revolution to be sovereign, to be respectful, to have its own decision in the region, economically, in the micro sense, and in the intern term.
But some opposition leaders in Venezuela say that an invasion coming from the United States is needed for the restoration of democracy in the South American country. Two questions here. Has Venezuela really lost its democracy? Is there a dictatorship in Venezuela? It's kind of contradictory, I think, if we notice that more than 20 electoral processes have taken place here in the last 2 decades.
You know, there is a similar thing with Syria.
It's a similarity with Syria.
Yeah, with Syria. You know, when the opposition are financed by the Western power, for example in Syria, and they spend all the time on the biggest and the highest and luxurious hotels in Turkey and whatever. Yesterday, when U.S. Or the last week, when the U.S. bombed Syria, they were very glad about it, because and they called a president that is fighting for its people, for its sovereignty, for integrity of its territory. He's a dictatorship. So,
but President Al-Assad won the election with the 70% of the population.
When you are in Syria, you will see, you can see the people aim for him, loved him, and ask for the protection of the army, Syrian army, because you know when we are speaking about rebels, when we are speaking about terrorism financed by U.S. nation and allies, it's very hard to see the destruction, the mass destruction in Syria. So when we see really a responsible, I can say, opposition in Venezuela. They are aiming to get an invasion over the territory of Venezuela to get out from this dictatorship that the people needs to preserve the status quo of the revolution, because they know that with the revolution they are protected, their rights are protected. And right now, thanks God that the people of Venezuela knows very well who is who. That the president and its committee, executive government, are working day by day for the good state of Venezuela and their interest. And we are seeing an opposition which day by day it's on the White House in communication with the United States to trying always to complot to trying to get trouble into Venezuela and whatever. So I think no, we have democracy, lot of democracy. Demoskratos, the term, it means the power of the people, the power of of the human.
You're right, the inhabitants of a town, of a city, of a country.
City, yes, this is the Demoskratos. And here we are not speaking about a, as we say, a cupola of elites, of politics who are really, we can get shame about its behaviors on all the institution, international institution, the OEA or the UN or whatever. The people are right now very clear about the objective, about the situation, and who is standing beside them or not.
What would happen if someday the United States decided to invade Venezuela?
It will be a mass, a reality, because the history shows us that the democracy that United States wanted to establish in the world, already we have an example, Iraq. We have an example, Libya. We have an example of Afghanistan. After really in Kosovo, after the intervention of United States, there is a chaos, total chaos. There is a total mass destruction, miserable situation, and hunger. All what can be really destructible for the nation. United States doesn't come to help you if there is not interest for her. And right now she knows very well that the standard, international standard, and the new policy, the new world, the new order in the world changed. It's not the same. It's not, and I think that United States cannot do it because there is a lot of interest in Venezuela. There is a lot of investment in Venezuela. Geopolitically, United States lose, even in the financial institution internationally. It's in a weak situation to attack Venezuela.
So what would the people do, not only the Venezuelan people, but the rest of the world's people do in order to avoid an invasion coming from the United States to Venezuela?
Yes, of course.
What
I was telling you, Venezuela, it's not a common country. Venezuela, it's not a simple country. Venezuela just once close its frontier, mostly this is the reality. Mostly they will be affected. Colombia, the market of Colombia, the people of Colombia. It's not the government. You know, the Caribbean countries. All the traffic, economic traffic, will be affected. So it will be a mess for
the people who are benefited from Petrocaribe, for instance.
Yeah. For the South and the Caribbean countries. Right now, our direct lies, I highlight always over these 2 points that we are, our partner is Russia in the Faha. Our partner is China. And the debt of United States, which China is, it's over the trillions. So it is economically, it's in a weak situation, and always we have to see, and we have to give an honor to Venezuela trying to get out of this blockage, economic blockage, which is mean that right now we are Venezuela is issuing the petrocurrency.
The petrocurrency, yes.
And then we are cryptocurrency. This is the market. This is the future. This is the emerging future. And so right now we are seeing that we are on the final of the tunnel, and with the right policy of our when you have a government, when you have a governor that attend the interest of its nation first, and the interest of their people, nation, or interest. It's a really big issue, big thing, and Venezuela, thanks God, that has its right government.
Isabel, thank you very much for this interview.
Thanks for receiving us, and thanks for Telesur, as we say, that it is the voice of the freedom, the voice of the people that want to change a world into a better world with more equality and more justice.
Very kind of yours. Remember, this is From Caracas. I'm Ray Gomez. Thank you for being with us.